Dr. Raymont Anderson speak before? Yeah, you know what you're in store for. How many of you are hearing him for the first time? Ooh, I love it. You are to be grateful that you got yourself up this morning to be here. No, undoubtedly. You know, I have a friend who has taught for over 38 years, and you can no more separate the teacher out of here. She retired a couple of years ago, but everywhere she goes, even in the supermarket, she's sharing something that she picked up, a tidbit of information or interesting fact. It's just so much who she is. You know, she was actually voted, and she became a Teacher of the Year in the state of Maryland. She was among the who's who of teachers in the world, in America rather, multiple times. And that's what happens when someone is truly living and being in their bliss. You know where I'm going with this. When you hear Reverend Raymont and you witness him and his energy, you know you're witnessing someone who has found their bliss. That whatever it is that led up to this moment, all just supported, right, and nurtured, and sometimes shoved and pushed and kicked him in this direction. Do I hear an amen over there, Raymond? Yeah, right? Well, I'm going to share with you a little blurb that is here about his bio. As a lifelong learner with a passion for self-development, personal transformation, transmutation, and self-awareness, he lives his bliss as a teacher, mentor, speaker, minister, and more. Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson is a person whose bio cannot possibly effectively catalog all that he is, or all he has done, does, or is doing. He has been a teacher since the mid-'80s and has been teaching ever since. Some of the disciplines he has taught have been such things as the visual arts, American Sign Language, martial arts, public speaking, spirituality and religion, etc., 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 etc. He has authored 2 books. He's the father of 5 amazing young men and grandfather of 5 beautiful children. Is it still 5 or is that increased? Okay, 5 beautiful grandchildren. In June of 2011, he resigned from his full-time job as a high school teacher in Maryland, as a professor at the Bowie State University, and as a full-time interpreter, juggling just a little bit, in order to begin his right and divine livelihood, which is ministry, in a full-time path. He is an ordained interfaith, interspiritual, and non-denominational New Thought minister, as well as a licensed religious science practitioner, and as of a month ago, he passed his oral panel to become a licensed religious science minister. So kudos to you for that. Okay. No surprise to any of us here, of course. He is also the affiliate minister, he is the president of the Board of Leadership for the D.C. location, Centers for Spiritual Living. I'm not going to, I could go on, there's several pages here worth of this man's accolades and accomplishment. He is a Renaissance man. And recently I had a friend come to me and said, do you know this Raymont Anderson person? I said, well, as a matter of fact, do I? Why? She said, well, because I was Googling charismatic, and he came up. I said, look too. Yep, indeed. Yeah. Yeah. So without further ado, please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson as he leads us into a marvelous message. Thank you, sir.
So, I feel that it's only appropriate that I warn the new folks. And actually, I guess I should warn everybody. So there are some times when ministers give a talk and we give these words and they're supposed to inspire or encourage, etc. This is not one of those moments. Just want to let you know. Because sometimes the talk, the message, the whatever we're calling it, is supposed to give us something to think about that we take home and we continue to think about it, we meditate on it, we contemplate on it, we come back and we still don't have an answer. Because there's something in the process of asking. Many years ago when I was studying martial arts, someone told me, it's a Chinese phrase, and it says, he who is asking the question already has the answer, right? So before you ask, because we don't ask questions that we know there's no answer to, so the fact that we are asking implies that on some level there has to be a resolution, an answer, a something, right? So we are talking about this idea of getting lost, losing ourselves, driving down the street and there's a detour and I don't know where I'm going and I'm going to get lost. When Tracy and I used to drive around DC, she would get stressed. Is that a fair enough word, stressed? Lose her mind. Because DC can be, anyone drive around DC? DC, depending on where you are, it is the land of no left turns, where everything is a right turn. It's like, but I want to get, it's a right turn, it's a right turn. You can't get there unless it's 4 o'clock on a Monday and the sun is right there. Then you can make the left turn. So Tracy and I would have these conversations, and I would say, Tracy, you can't get lost. You can never get lost. When do you make this right turn and you end up on Pluto? Like, when do you aim to take exit 3 and you make it and you're now in Texas? or some other galaxy far, far away. Like, you can't really get lost. And so I would say, Tracy, we were supposed to go that way, but we're going this way. And we got into this thing, and I would say, Tracy, so what is this now? When we make this and we're going down there, what do we call it?
A journey.
A journey.
Yeah, that I know.
A journey or an adventure.
Adventure. I couldn't get the word out.
So anytime we're somewhere where we have no idea where we are, it's an adventure.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Do we believe that God is all there is? Do we believe that God is now, in my former life as a regular fundamental Christian, we would talk about God being omnipotent and omniscient and like we would talk about all that stuff, right? So let me ask, because we are New Thought folks. So do we believe that God, source, spirit, not that it's omnipotent, but that it's omnipotence itself, omniscience itself, omnipresence itself. So it is all powerful. We believe in God, the living spirit, almighty, one, absolute, all powerful. It is everywhere present, all the time, and it knows all things. Everything. How could it not? It's all there is. How could it not know? Do we believe this? Okay, thank you. I forgot to tell you that there are some parts that it's like, I ask a question. It's that teacher in me. So if it's all there is, and it's all powerful, and it's all knowing, and it's everywhere present, then is it right here sitting in these chairs?
Yes.
Is it the chair itself?
No.
Is it the floor, the wall, the ceiling? It's all of this. So when we hear the song, and the song is talking about God being in the body, or the reading, and it's also the body. Everything is made of God's stuff, right? So if everything is made of God's stuff, we are it. It is us. Can God get lost? Can God ultimately make a mistake? When does God say, and this is me anthropomorphizing, I think I shall put Pluto there. Like, it doesn't happen. But see, what we do is we forget. In this thing called human skin and life, we forget. We start down this road, we wake up in the morning, there's a pain in the back, there's a something going on. Is that another gray hair? Like, there's something, and we forget that we are immortal, eternal, forever and ever expanding. Both us as source, as spirit, and our individual soul. You ever read the We Believes at the beginning of the Science of Mind magazine? It says in there, we believe in our own soul and our own spirit. Forever and... Now, if we really break these things down, and we really go through the We Believes, and then ask ourselves, if I believe this, then what does it look like in my life? Because at any given moment, let's 300, 400 years ago, there are shamans and indigenous Americans and the Incas, and there are all these people, right? They didn't have a GPS. They didn't have a smartphone that, boop, 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 looking for the pyramids. Go 4 miles. Like, they didn't have this technology. But they did have a technology by which they used to guide them to get from point A to point B. What was this? The stars and nature. They knew that if moss is growing on this side of the tree, it means that. They knew that if the tree is linked, that it means this. That when it is the darkest, look to the lights in the sky and we can find our way. Even when they didn't have the technology that we get. I got a fan, man. The GPS, recalculating. What am I supposed to do? Drive in a circle? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. See, every time we live outside of ourselves, Reverend Lee said, it's internal. It's an internal job. Our thoughts don't come. What did you just hit me? Our thoughts don't come from somewhere else and hit us. Our thoughts are from inside. Love doesn't come to us in a box and we're like, oh, I got a GPS. I got a UPS package. Oh, but it's love. Yay. Like, that's not how we get love. Love comes from inside out. Like, I ask people, anybody in here have children? If I were to ask you, do you love your children? Can you prove it to me? You can't. You know what it feels like. You know, but there's nothing you could do, nothing you could say that proves it to me in the way that if I hand you that chocolate and tell me what it tastes like in your mouth, that I will taste it too. Because when Reverend Lee is reading the thing about the apple and tasting it and smell the fragrance of, each of us had our own representation and version of a time we had an apple and what it tasted like, what it smelled like, what it felt like. But it's not his. His experience is how God is experiencing itself in, through, and as him. And that's the same for each and every one of us. So the thing is, when we feel, oh man, I made another mistake. What if a mistake is never a mistake, but it is merely a detour? Because see, the idea is that if we can make a mistake, then we can mess up. God cannot mess up. So God is going to get where God, where source, where spirit, where the universe, where the force is going to get where it wants to go. How could it not? Because if God can be blocked, if source can be blocked, if spirit can be blocked, then there has to be an opposing power that is blocking it. And there isn't. So if God is going to get where it wants to go, spirit is going to get where it wants to go, the universe is going to get where it wants to go, then regardless of what I do, what I say, it is going to have its way, ultimately. So what if my mistake, many years ago, I decide I'm going to go into movie special effects. I'm in high school, and that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a movie special effects technician. I wanted to do like Star Wars and stuff. So I go to my art teacher, and my art teacher says, you don't have the talent, you don't have the skill. Crushed me. So I said, well, what would I need to do to get the talent, get the skill? You need to develop better art skills, learn how to draw better. So I enrolled in the Art Institute of Pittsburgh and told him about it, and he said, you're not going to graduate. Watch me. That was the attitude, watch me. So I went and did it. Is it what I'm doing now? Like, am I a whatever? No. But table that. Then I go back to college again to be an art teacher. And I was that for a few years. But am I that now? No, table that. Then I went back and it's as an American Sign Language interpreter. Am I doing that? No, table that. But see, the point is, years and years of each of these things that I thought, it's me failing. I can't be a professional artist. I'm not going to be, I paid all this money to be an art teacher and now I'm not doing it. Now I messed up. And then it's an interpreter, and I did for years, but I messed up. What am I supposed to do? I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what I'm called to do. What if I take this class and it's a mistake? What if I pay all this money for nothing? So, a couple of years somewhere in there, I enroll in the University of Pittsburgh for their deaf education program. I decided I'm going to get a master's in deaf education. It joins the sign language and the deaf culture with the teaching. That's a perfect marriage. Yes, that's what I'm going to do. And I get in, and day one, I don't like you and I don't like you. Those are the teachers. I don't like you and I don't like you and I don't like my classmates. But I'm going to bite the bullet and deal with this. 3 weeks in, the bullet got really big. I couldn't get my mouth around it, but I'm still carrying it like I have to do this. And then my body started, oh, ow, ow, ow. And then my body started to say, miss a class, because you're not feeling well. So I sat home, head was like boom, boom, like it was throbbing. I sat home, turned on the television, I think it was watching Match Game. Now I'm sitting there and I'm watching TV, and the headache was like, boop, gotta go. Like I felt it. Next day, time to go to class. Boom. So I listened. And I realized that wasn't mine to do. I felt it was. Why? Because something external to me was saying, in order to not be a failure, this is the most appropriate thing you should do. You're supposed to make this amount of money, have this degree, and do this with your life. And it didn't feel right. Everything that I did, every mistake, led me here. Every class that I took, both the ones I enjoyed and the ones I did not, led me here. If you would have asked me in any of these times, Ray, you gonna be a minister? You think you're gonna be a minister? You gonna be a minister? You've lost your mind. That is the last thing I wanted to be. But I got ordained several times, and like this is my, why? Because at some point I surrendered and let God, let Source, let Spirit have its way in, through, and as me. When do you take an apple? Take an apple seed, plant it, and it grows an orange tree. Or vice versa, an orange, and it grows an apple tree. When do any of these things in nature not reproduce after its own kind? Never. Never. So why would we assume that we are any different from anything else in the natural order of the cosmos? If we say that God, Source, Spirit is not a creator, but is creation itself, that everything about it is more and more, ever and ever and ever expanding consciousness. Consciousness cannot expand and not also mean creation. So Source, Spirit is creation. And if it is us, then are we not also supposed to be creating and creative and creating more and more? But in order to do that, we have to surrender. So what if surrendering is simply being still in the moment and realizing that we have this internal GPS, this God positioning system that says you are right where I, as you, desire to be. And that when we surrender to this, because we know if we really, really, really get honest with ourselves and get quiet, go into the side, this is one reason why a lot of us don't meditate the way we could. Because when we go into the space, when we really go into the space and we hear Spirit say, write that book. Meditation's done. I gotta go bake the cookies. And we find a reason. I can't sit still. Like we find a reason to leave the silence because it's uncomfortable to be called to be something greater. Why does Marianne Williamson say at the end of our deepest fear or our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure? That's one reason why we will not. It's far easier to talk about God in us, with God. We are still creating this separation of. And I understand there's linguistic convenience, and that's fine. But on some level of that, knowing what it feels like to love my children, knowing what it feels like to taste that apple, knowing what that feels like to let the chocolate melt on the tip of my, just made me hungry, letting it melt on the tip of my tongue, knowing what that is no different. When we really get grounded and centered, we know. We know. So when we go into the silence, when we go into meditation, when we go into prayer, and Spirit says, this is who I am with you, this is who I am through you, but it's also what I am as you. The I behind the I is the I am. So God, Source, Spirit is not just there moving with me. There inside of my body temple, it is me. Why did Yeshua say, when you have seen me, you have seen the Father. You have seen the one who sent me. You have seen the I behind the I that I am. What if we started speaking in that same way? What if we started relanguaging how we talk about lack and limitation? Talking about obstacles and problems and circumstances and situations as not a problem, as an opportunity. 2 + 2 = 9 is not, I got the problem wrong. It's an opportunity to work out the correct, the most effective, the ease of what the law of numbers and mathematics say. What if working out the law of spirit, the law of nature, is no different? That when I set forth a goal and I create that vision board and I pray and treat and meditate and I don't see it manifesting, what if it's not an obstacle, a problem, but an opportunity to get more grounded and more in alignment and find out, is there something that in my consciousness that I didn't know was, I forgot to forgive you. That's what it was. I thought I did, but I didn't go deep enough. Let me bring you back to the altar of forgiveness and do the process. That's why I tell people, when someone annoys you, someone ticks you off, they make that part right there in the back of your back itch, and you just, you know that feeling. A lot of times it's family. You know that feeling. That's why Ram Dass says, oh, you think you're enlightened? Go home for a weekend. Spend time with the family. See how enlightened you are then. Because they know us. And they don't mean to push those buttons, but they know the combination. I got you. What if that is not something to escape from, but something to run straight into? Because them showing us, you do realize that me saying this caused this emotion to come up. Exactly. I didn't know that this emotion was still there. My mother showed me that this was still there. Blessed as a gift. I'm not lost. I can't be wrong. This is an opportunity to get realigned, get back into that place where I know that I know. There's a Zen story where this guy is walking past the temple, Mansurji, and the Buddha or teacher, depending on how the story is told, calls out to him, Mansurji, Mansurji, come in, come in. And Mansurji turns to the Buddha or the teacher and says, for what? I am the temple. And he keeps on walking. See, we have this idea that you have to go somewhere to be sacred, that you have to do something to somehow be holy. But holy comes from go back far enough to holy, 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 whole. Holy means I am whole. And we talk about in New Thought, in religious science, I am whole, perfect, and complete. Do we speak like people who know we are whole, perfect, and complete? Do we interact with one another as one who, because, you remember the movie Jerry Maguire? Anybody see this movie? There's an elevator scene where there's this deaf guy and this woman and they're signing and and there's this concept of you complete me. Lies. No one can complete you. You are complete. So when we enter into a relationship, a friendship, a business partnership, or whatever that is, what would happen if we entered it knowing you're complete and I'm complete? You're complete and I'm complete. You're complete and I'm complete. You are whole, so am I. You are perfect and so am I. What then happens with that interaction? What happens in that relationship? What can two whole people now create? Two people who know that they are perfect, what can they create? Two people who have this awareness, who are walking their truth in perfect alignment and know now what's possible from that space. Rather than the external of. Because every time we think we're lost, every time we think that we've messed up, or that we might mess up, because we love the what if, but what if I mess up? What if in delivering the speech, what if and we what if ourselves to death. And what we are doing is we are worshiping at the altar of the lie, which way back when that would have been called devil worship. Because Lucifer is the father of all lies. Lucifer is the liar. So when we believe the lie, we are worshiping. We are choosing to turn our attention away from. We are choosing to turn the GPS off. We are choosing to blow the candles out. We are choosing to walk in the dark bumping into stuff and cursing the darkness. Instead of turn the light on. Not an external light. The internal light that is, that knows. There's a poem by Rumi, and I'm going to paraphrase it, where he says, I have walked at the edge of insanity, seeking reasons. Knocking on the door, it opens, and I realize I've been knocking from the inside. Everything that we could ever want to be, do, or have isn't out here. It's in here. The moment we know that we have it in here, it has to show up. That's the law of creation, the law of attraction, the law of whatever, as above, so below. The moment I know that I know, think about something that you wanted to see or manifest or demonstrate. And you hemmed and hawed and, well, maybe. But once you made up your mind and said, there is nothing, no one, no circumstance or situation that's going to block this, every door opened up for you because you got out of your own way. Nothing external can block you. You got out of your own way. So I invite all of us to simply get grounded and centered and know everything that we could ever want, ever seek, ever be is right here present. You cannot mess up because God can't mess up. You cannot be a mistake because Spirit doesn't make mistakes. That everything that it is, love, joy, magnificence, beauty, creativity, everything that is the fruit of the Spirit is growing in and through and as each and every one of us. Let's treat real quick. Centering and breathing. Going to that place within where we realize that we are not breathing, but that we are being breathed. And that just as we do not worry or concern ourselves with that next breath, where will it come from? When will it come? We simply surrender to the breath and it is there. And so in this moment, what I know to be truth is that Spirit is all there is. The absolute. One. Love itself, magnificence itself, joy, the one mind, the thing itself. And knowing that it is all there is, it must be right here in, through, and as me, and as every person in this room, as the room itself, as everyone in this hotel, and everyone and everything throughout all of creation. The seen and the unseen and the not yet seen. All Spirit. And if it is all there is, then there is nothing that can stand in opposition to it. So that when my mind says, this is what is yours to do, what I know is that it is God, it is Source, it is Spirit calling me to surrender to that. And so as I surrender, what I know is that each and every one of us, as we surrender, this power, this truth, this being and doing and having must come forth. For all there is God. All there is infinite potential, potentiality, possibility. And so in gratitude, I speak this word knowing that it is not the word of Raymont Anderson, but it is the word of the I Am, speaking through itself, about itself, and placing these words back into the law of itself. Therefore, I know that it is already so. And so it is.
And so it